Wealth, money is a very big deal on this planet. If you don't have money, you're going to have a hard life. There's been a battle between the rich and the poor on this planet for 3 million years, which is the age of the human species. This day, there's about 5% or less that are wealthy and 95% that are poor or middle class poor. When you're keeping up with your payments, with your mortgage, with your rent, with your car payments, with all the expenses and just getting by and have to work, you're really tied to making money, which means you are poor. Poverty is the main status of a human. Why is there a battle between the rich and the poor? Why does this battle happen? But all wealth, every rich person, every comes from poverty. Our root, all life root, all human roots come from nothing, from poverty. Somebody had to work to make the money somewhere, right? So the root of all humans is poverty and misery. We come from misery and poverty. So why this battle between wealth and poverty? Well, as soon as a poor person becomes a wealthy person, say through a successful business or through gathering money or whatever means, you leave poverty and you start to become wealthy, your psychology tends to change very rapidly. You want to forget your roots. You want to forget where you came from, the ghettos that you came from, the families that you came from, the misery that you once lived, and you want to hang around with other rich people. You don't feel comfortable with the poor anymore. You don't even want to see the poor anymore. In fact, the rich find the poor repugnant, mostly. There are exceptions. It's not 100%. There are rich people who have a good heart and who have compassion for the poor, but most wealthy people don't have compassion for the poor because they see them as losers. They see them as a kind of humiliation that they don't want to look at the poor. They don't want to serve the poor. They don't want to get the poor out of poverty. They want to find more wealth because there are other wealthy people who are more wealthy, and therefore there's a competition between the wealthy, and they like parties among the wealthy. They feel comfortable in these parties. If a poor person comes to that party, it's almost like an untouchable coming in and ruining the party. How is it possible for 5% of the people to rule over 95% of the people, even though there's democracy and ballot boxes and elections? It's very simple, that it's very expensive to run for government. I think Bloomberg was saying that he would put out $50 million just to run for president of the United States. It takes a lot of money to be known, to distribute flyers, to get into social media and build articles and build a following and just be known. It takes a lot of money to be known. And the rich have the money for that and the poor don't. So you don't get Mahatma Gandhi running for president. You get wealthy lawyers, wealthy people, big tycoons running for government, which is not exactly the best thing for life. When 95% of the people are middle class poor or poor, you need somebody from those masses to run in order to resolve the problems of the poor. But that never happens. The rich are always in government. The rich run the government, they own the government, or they buy the government. That is the standard. If a wealthy person phones the president will pick up the phone and fast. Why? Because the wealthy finance the elections. They make those $100,000, $200,000, $400,000 checks, whatever it is, to run for the government. So the government will pay attention to the rich and is usually surrounded by corporations asking for favors, right? And because of that, the poor are never served. The proof is that the cost of survival of the poor keeps rising. The price of mortgage, the price of rent, the price of food, the price of cars, everything keeps rising, which means the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. It hasn't much changed from the time of Henry VIII. Human psychology believes that the ballot box and the right to vote are fantastic, that they're going to get democracy. Democracy means the power to the people, right? The people are 95% poor. Where is the power? When will the poor get powerful, which means get out of poverty? When the government begins to address poor people's issues, which they never do. The government is responsible for the school system and usually, designs the school system, a branch of government of education. Why is it that becoming a billionaire is never taught in school? I went to school for 15 years and there was not one course on money. The importance of becoming rich, to have a decent life, a good life on the planet, is never taught in school. Instead, they teach you history, algebra, geography, social studies. They got 400 years of useless courses in the school system. And, when you get out of the school system, broke, basically. That's the kind of school system we have. If they had a school system course called How to Be a Billionaire, How to Be Jeff Bezos, How to Be Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, it would be flocked. They would need to have hundreds of classes of that because a lot of the people in school are there to be rich, to get out of the poverty of their parents. But money is never taught in school unless you get into the business world. The business classes teach you how to be an employee. They don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur and how to grow a business, how to be a billionaire. You can never be a billionaire being an employee. You can only be a billionaire if you know how to own and grow a business. How come this is never taught in school? This is a conspiracy of the rich. There's a conspiracy in the rich never to inform the poor about money, to keep the poor in the dark about money. Right in school, they will never speak about money. So that they don't want any competition. The rich don't want people coming out of school like gigantic potential tycoons that are going to take over the world. The rich don't want any competition. So they keep the students stupid to money. I mean, the prime rate of interest is about 1.5 to 1.75%. And the credit card rate in the United States range from 20% to 30%. How is that possible? The credit card companies say there's a big default rate. There's like a 13% default rate. People don't pay their credit cards on time. But those people usually get a very, very low margin of credit in the credit card. Credit card companies are not stupid. They're not going to give a $40,000 credit card to somebody on welfare, but they will give them $500, right? So our society loves us to stay poor, to keep working, and to stay in perpetual debt, just like the credit card companies. The credit card companies don't like when you pay your balance. The credit card companies like when you take a lifetime to pay so that they could make gigantic profits on the interest. The average credit card debt in the United States per household is about $8,200. That shows that people are not rich. When you're rich, you do not have any kind of credit card debt. You pay it off. Right? The government still depends on taxes, even though it could build government enterprises and government businesses slowly to basically remove taxes altogether. But there is such a creed in the government that whatever money comes into the government coffers disappears rather quickly. There's a lot of contracts, there's a lot of favors, there's a lot of favors to corporations, contracts to corporations to make the corporations more wealthy. Usually corporations who have helped the government come to power. So to have a government that would be $22 trillion in the positive rather than in the negative right now is kind of impossible. The electric car has been alive since 1965, and we still can't get a cheap electric car for the masses. We have a Tesla that's $100,000. That's not exactly going to remove the poverty from the poor. The poor need a cheap electric car, but there's a resistance to remove gasoline, and there's a resistance to remove the combustion engine because certain corporations, the car companies and the gasoline companies, want things to stay the same. And they win. The government sides with these companies. They don't side with the people. So the rich always win against the poor because they control the government. The government pays attention to the rich a lot more than they pay attention to the poor. So we need an honest, competent government that feels offended by the misery of the poor and the struggle even of the middle class to pay for its bills for an entire lifetime. Who wants to pay 25 years of mortgage to own a house? What kind of dinosaur world do we live in?